we're going to do another journal flip through. Hi, I'm Laura from Hyperstamper, and this is another wonderful junk journal made from an antique book from 1937. And what's great is the ledger page that I put on top is also from 1937. Isn't that wonderful? And I've also included on the cover here is a rusted key that I thought matched the book the book cover, as well as a vintage dog tag from the 70s, 1976, 3321. So that's kind of fun. The book is from 1937 called Studs Lonigan, a trilogy. And let's have a look and see what treasures are inside. I left the original taped lines here and the original aging. I couldn't have done better with tea bags. And it looks like Tom Eagerman from Minnesota owned this book back in the 30s. And then through the years, different students, it looks like, have written in this particular book. So we have lots of pages here that I didn't touch because there's so much great journaling space in them. Here we go. Is 1938. 38 this edition is. He has lots of blank pages here, so I didn't want to cover them up too much so you'd have lots of journaling space, because I've added 80 more pages, which makes this about a 90-page junk journal. I love this little snippet I pulled from an antique book called Endings and Beginnings. And this is one of those wonderful antique pages from the Magic Garden. Again, more journaling space for you. This is a vintage book, The Christmas Carol. It's on cardstock pages with gold lining at the tops, and a 1937 music sheet. And this fun little tuck pocket here is made from a very old piece of binding, which sometimes when you pull it apart, it has a wonderful old piece of paper in it, which was the case here. And in it, I have tucked in this wonderful States Avenue 1930s Monopoly property card. Isn't that fantastic? And this is a Henry Rousseau 1956 print from a vintage art book on Henri Rousseau, who was a Parisian artist. Here we go. This is a wonderful vintage bird book, Northern Three-Toed Woodpecker. It's a sketching, and it's actually on glossy paper, which meant it was a very good book in its vintage days. I made this little pocket out of a children's book page, which is adorable. It's got an elephant and a little puppy, and because it's flipped up this way, it's upside down, but a little horse in a tub. And in here, I put a vintage glassine stamp envelope, 1976, and a bunch of wonderful vintage stamps in there for you to play with, or use in your own journals, or just look at, because they're beautiful. These are the flip sides of those pages I showed you. I love the Magic Garden books because they decorated, oh, look at this one with the violin. They decorated every page. So I really didn't have to add anything to these pages. I didn't want to spoil their original beauty. I hand stamped some tea-dyed pages in here. Everything else is authentic, antique, and vintage. Nothing's been copied, bought in a kit, commercial paper, nothing. It's all real. This is a vintage pattern, sewing pattern, that I just wanted to add to this sort of boring page. But on the flip side of that boring page is this wonderful 1940s yearbook page from a university yearbook. It's so awesome. I just love looking at the fashions back then, just magnificent. And I made this out of an old antique book, as well as this, and some very old music paper here, and just some scrap linen, and a vintage butterfly paper. Here we go. This came out of a Needleworks and Crafts magazine from the 1950s. Just kind of fun. Isn't that neat? This is fun to have in there. You can write on the white space too. We really use it. This is a 1926 blank ledger page. Again, hard to come by. Blank. Although I do like the ones with the writing. You'll see that soon. And this is a wonderful antique postcard. This one is from 1950s. To Natty, and I just think it's stunning. So you can enjoy that as well. I just tuck that back in the pocket I made here with a nice little thing I pulled from an antique book called A Heroic Life. Isn't it pretty? I really like that. And this is the inside part of the book that was put in with huge, almost rope from over 100 years ago. This ledger page here, also from 1926, but a different ledger. And I love the pink and blue lines in it. Two different kinds of vintage playing cards. Aren't they sweet? And one of my favorite Pearls shop receipts from Cincinnati. Yes, I do. You'll see these in all my journals. I have hundreds and hundreds of them, so they're not photocopied. I just have lots. This is a wonderful plate 139 from Curves and Ives. I think, yep. This one is called Wooding Up on the Mississippi. Isn't that spectacular? And that's from 1902. This came from a vintage cookbook, Blue Ribbon Cocoa. You can see there's a bit of recipe peeking through back here. Made a little envelope out of an antique book page that you can journal on there. And another one of those great ledger pages, and this wonderful bingo card from the 1950s. Isn't that awesome? And I just made a little pocket here to cover up what was kind of a boring page, but it's from an encyclopedia. And this is the flip side. This, you're lucky to get, if you got this journal, you're lucky because it actually has 3 of these class pages. This one is the cast of Pride and Prejudice. So that would be the drama club. And over here we have the girls' glee club. That noise is the keys hitting the table here. Sorry about that. Look at that, the glee club. Hello, fantastic. Just a couple more tea-dyed pages here. And an antique children's book page, Gateways to Bookland. And this is another one of these wonderful early 1900s pages from the Emerald Isle, which is an Irish book of poems, and lots of journaling space on there, as well as this old ledger page here. It still has the staple marks. This is a page from the late 1800s, and a lovely doily piece here. Now, if you want, you can glue this down like I did on the flip side over here and make it into a pocket. I'm gonna leave that up to you. You can even cut it out and use it in your own journals that you make. Here's a 1940s Theater World magazine page, and tucked in here is how to make an English garden from the mid 1900s. Look at these great advertisements. Aren't they awesome? And then I did make this into a tuck pocket here, and inside is this 1938 page from Paris, France Almanac, yearly almanac. And this one is Dimanche 30 Mars 1938, which is, sorry for my French friends if I said that wrong, March 20th, 1938. And you can go into Google Translate and find out what these mean, because they're pretty awesome. Here we go. And you have to remember that was during World War II, so there's a lot of propaganda and pro-Europe cartoons and things in there. It's really fun. I just made this little flip up page here out of an antique book page, and this is a wonderful little poem from another children's book. A Great Day, that was the title of this page in an antique book, and I couldn't throw it out, so I kept the title to decorate some pages. And there's one of those written ledgers. This one is from 1927. Look at all these wonderful names. It was all done with a pen and inkwell. So this is really special. This is the end page here. I just love that. Can you see that? The end. So it was the last page in an antique book, but we made this beautiful tuck spot here. And this came out of a school book, scrapbook. So this would have been a project on farm animals, I think. That's going to be my guess. Isn't that wonderful? And I really wanted to peel this back, but I was so worried about tearing it. But if you want to, you can peel that back and find out what the heck the date is, but we believe it's early 1920s. When I say we, I mean me and voices in my head. Okay, I'm kidding. I ask my sons all the time to look things up. They're awesome that way. And on the flip side here is a magazine page that I found. It was behind a photograph or a painting. When I took the painting out, it was sitting in behind there. So it's not in good shape, but holy cow, is it ever fun to look at. And this was 1910. This is Chicago 1909, but the magazine's from 1910. it's a lot of stuff about raising roosters and Rooster Express, and then there's a frosting recipe. It's too fun. And that's all mounted on top of a vintage atlas page, kind of hanging back there. This is from a wonderful Indigenous author from the late 1800s. Poems here, Indigenous poems. And here is a lovely full color page from a vintage cookbook, more vintage paper for you to journal on, another one of Pearl's receipts, another ledger page, and back here on the very last page, a very, very old book called The Little Colonel. I found the end page and I thought it should live in another journal, and so I tucked it at the very end of this book. And in here's another one of those wonderful ledger pages that you can journal on or just enjoy. So I hope you'll visit my Etsy shop, etsy.com/shop/hyperstamper with a capital H, and I hope you visit me again soon. Thanks.